Today's tool of the trade live demo, Laser Safe, the Biomed's Path to LSO certification, is presented by consultants Vangie Dennis and Patti Owens. This dynamic duo of experts combines more than 60 years of experience. They have presented at too many conferences to count and continue to share their expert insight and knowledge. Patti has extensive experience in medical safety programs and laser safety and provides valuable consultation services. He has held significant roles, including president of the AORN E-Chapter, secretary of the ANSI Z136.3 committee for 12 years, and the safety officer of the American Society for Laser Medicine and Surgery. She has been recognized for her achievements with the Nurse Excellence Award in both 1999 and in 2014. And in 2024, she received the R. James Rockwell Jr. Education Achievement Award. In addition, she has just been designated as a fellow with AORN for 2026. Vangie is a consultant for Perioperative Consultants, LLC. She is an active member in several professional organizations, including AORN, American Academy of Nursing, and Laser Institute of America. She is a fellow for AORN and the AAN, and she is the recipient of the 2026 Award for Excellence in Nursing. This educational webinar highlights the importance of training and certifying biomedical engineers to serve as medical laser safety officers in your facility. Biomedical engineers can be laser safety officers because their technical expertise with medical devices, understanding of safety protocols, and familiarity with equipment maintenance and calibration make them ideal for managing complex laser systems and ensuring patient safety, staff, and public safety in the healthcare environment. Their technical background directly aligns with the need for precise, at-risk risk assessment, implementation of control measures, and adherence to strict ANSI standards. All right, now it's trivia time. That's right, we're going to give away a multi-tool to one lucky attendee today. The trivia question is, what beverage company has been using Santa Claus in their Christmas advertising since 1931? Which company has been using Santa Claus in their Christmas advertising campaign since 1931? We'll reveal the answer and the winner later today in the webinar. I want to remind everyone that today's presentation is eligible for 1 CE credit from the ACI. 1 hour after the end of today's broadcast, you will receive an emailed survey. Completing that survey will grant access to a certificate that you can download and print from your desktop. If time allows, we will wrap up today's broadcast with a Q&A session. Please note that the webinar dashboard includes a question feature. You can submit your questions for our presenters at any time during the demo. That question feature is also where you can submit your answer to the trivia question. Okay, I'm excited to learn more about the Laser Safety Office certification. And Vangie, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm not going to read all this, but Patti and I saw what you said, John. I remember that over 60 years of combined education, and we've both been very active, whether it been in the American Society for Lasers in Medicine and Surgery, both recipients of the James Rockwell Education Achievement Award. But we are so very, very passionate in education for lasers that over the last several years, I would say over the last 10 and 11 years, as the International Laser Safety Conference has a specific section for healthcare providers, and that is biomedical engineers, educators, nurses, surgical technologists in that section. In short, Patti and I have been actually the medical practice application chairs, which puts that education together. So it is very informative, and we love getting together because we exchange ideas ourselves. It is so much an honor to be able to present to our biomedical engineers today. In short, in my history of working with biomedical engineers, example, Emory Healthcare, all the laser safety specialists and the laser safety officer, which I have connected to for over 20 years, has been a biomedical engineer. And I know within the organizations where I became system laser safety officer, it was being collaborative and symbiotic with our biomedical engineers in all the facilities I've ever worked. So in short, what we're going to tell you today is that a biomedical engineer can be the LSO, and there's so many other things that you can do to help with the delegation of what is required as an LSO. And then there's my buddy, Patti. And Patti and I have known each other, thanks, John, over 30-something years. And we were baby nurses together, actually, and did so many things. And I'm so proud of Patti and being able to partner with her over the years, but even more so with these types of courses and deliveries that we have. She has been a very active member, both of us, on the 136.3, but she was the secretariat, and I was a committee member. So less responsibility for sure. She had a tremendous amount of responsibility, and the IEC. So she is very in tune to a lot of the regulatory and practices that we have to be compliant with, and very proud of her as she just received a fellowship for the Association of Perioperative Nurses. So Patti, I'm so glad you've joined me in this goal to educate the misconceptions of who is an LSO and with lasers. So who is an LSO? They can be biomedical engineers. They can be PAs. They can be medical practitioners. They can be, their challenge is status quo. There can be registered nurses. They can be surgical technologists. And the Board of Laser Safety sets criteria of what you have to do to be a medical laser safety officer. They also take it to the next step, which when you're talking to Patti and I, we are going to highly encourage that any of you that choose to take that journey move to certification eventually, because that raises the bar of your knowledge, most definitely. But the role sometimes is misunderstood, is that if you bring in a leased laser or a rented laser, or maybe a physician comes into your organization and brings their own personal laser, like these tiny little diodes for pediatric patients or NICU patients, that we don't really need an LSO because it may be a one-time, or the infamous response that I hear so many times is, well, the rental company is our LSO. Well, they're in there, they're providing the individual operationalizing the laser. We really don't need an LSO. Yeah, it's your hospital or your facility or your ambulatory center, wherever you are over, you are totally responsible, and that is your patient in your institution. So hopefully we'll squash the rumors, give you a nice overview, and in no way is this going to replace a medical laser safety officer course. It is pretty intense and it gets very granular. I want you to know that. But we're going to tell you some of the responsibilities that are required of an LSO. Okay, so what are the objectives today? We want to explore biomedical engineers' qualifications as an MLSO. I want you to understand guidelines, standards, and standard operating procedures required for the safe use of lasers in their practice, because there is a very big difference between guidelines and standards, and we're going to tell you where to go for those. Standards are a consensus group of experts all over the world, where guidelines are based on evidence, research, and we're going to define the roles and responsibilities of a laser safety officer. So my polling question is, are lasers a regulated device?
All right, so that poll question is up now. Are lasers a regulated device? Please select one of the following, either true or false. All right, we're having some questions come in. Sorry, some answers come in. We'll give people a time to answer, and 92% said true, while 8% said false.
Wow, this is a pretty educated group, John. Yes, they are a regulated device. So it's really surprising because we do a lot of medical laser safety officer courses, Patti and I poll this question quite a bit, and you'd be surprised where majority of the combination is either physicians or nurses or surgical techs. They don't think it's regulated. But biomedical engineers know that's not true. We know that any ionizing radiation, such as C-arms and fluoro, or anything else that you oversee, are regulated, and in many states have to be reported. Thank you, John. So, do you need a medical laser safety officer? Why don't we take a deeper dive into what your roles and responsibilities are as a medical laser safety officer? The certified medical laser safety officer, there's two categories. There's certified laser safety officer and certified medical laser safety officer. And can a certified laser safety officer oversee the medical component? Absolutely, they can. But it's important to know they are a totally different level. It's an administrative role with authority. And one of the things I usually say is if you are deemed that accountability as the safety officer for your system or your hospital or your ambulatory center or your procedural rooms in a physician's office, if you oversee that, you have to have the authority, or the title is not worth the piece of paper it's written on. So we talk about how important it is to get that administrative support so you can enforce. Notice I say enforce the practices. They are also specially trained for ensuring safe use of lasers, the assessment of your medical environment in all the centers that I talked about. And this role is defined by the American National Standards Institute, commonly referred to as Z136.3. I used to say period 3, and they go, oh, no. 136.3, the American National Standards Institute for Safe Use of Lasers in Healthcare. Now, there are other organizations, notice I say organizations, not companies, that set standards on what the role of the MLSO is. And OSHA and the regulatory agents, and CMS is regulatory because it affects reimbursement, we'll look at these organizations as far as what they define as criteria for the individual in that role, as well as ask the question, do you have a medical laser safety officer? And I get a question all the time, do they have to be certified? They don't, but it raises the bar. It's just like anything we do. Patti and I are both certified. It raises the bar of education, and we're going to highly encourage it for sure. So who can be a medical laser safety officer? I said that earlier, it could be clinical or technical background. I think with our biomedical engineers, they have a little more edge than, and I say this respectfully, than a radiation safety officer, because they already understand a lot of the equipment in our perioperative services or the equipment that we use in operational procedures. They need to know operating room management or laser technology. Can they be that? I heard somebody say that. They said, yeah, a manager. Well, you know, a manager's got a lot of responsibility. And what if you came from Sloan Kettering, or I came from Emory where they had 200 lasers? There is no way I could wear the hat as a manager and do that too. And there's certain structures that when you go to a medical laser safety officer course, that we dive into the operational structure. But they can be a registered nurse, a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, a certified surgical technologist, a biomedical engineer, radiation specialist, even a risk manager. But we've got to get them specialized training in laser safety. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, do the LSOs have to know every little intricate part of that service line? You know, it's nice to know the basics of urology lasers and what they do and how we treat the pathology, but they're nowhere going to be like a resource nurse in urology. So let's take that scare tactic away from you. If you get somebody that knows it all, that's great. But unfortunately, your delegation of authority it just helps so much in this role. You've got to complete a medical laser safety officer training course. That if you move to certification, it has to be recognized by the Board of Laser Safety. When Patti and I started doing some research on this before we partnered in doing a lot of these courses, our concern was we get companies, and again, I'm saying that respectfully, that pop up and say, oh, we can train you in medical laser safety officer training. No, it has to be accredited by the Board of Laser Safety. And Patti will talk a little more about that at the end, and our course is accredited. You can be designated by the facility or employer, and this is should be, or I say shall, but should be after proper training and your demonstration of competency. So technical knowledge, that's of the optics. So you guys already got it down pat. Photonics and medical device function. A real dear friend of ours is Leslie Pollard, and she is a biomedical engineer with her master's in laser biooptics. And I said, oh, I'm getting tired of teaching my nurses and techs and everything. Let me bring Leslie in to teach this. We had a little laser that had, and don't hold me to this, you guys, because you're much more in tune to the maintenance and all of lasers. And she said, you know what, Vange, on this little Homium, you can take the skin off that laser and change the average power from 15 to 30 watts. And I looked at her, I said, have you lost your mind, Leslie? I just don't do that. So that's why biomeds are excellent candidates. They can understand both means of how lasers are used in surgery, the procedural areas, clinics, dermatology, and ophthalmology, but they have the knowledge of the optics, photonics, and medical device function. So in short, I did not take the skin off of that laser and work with it. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. In fact, on some of these urology lasers where they have an optic device, a blast shield, I don't even touch that. I get my biomeds to actually change my blast shields out. So biomedical engineers are good medical laser safety officers because they have the expertise to evaluate hazards and implement engineering controls. And you know how we are, surgical techs and nurses. You know how we unplug things from the wall. We jerk them. And if there's not enough electrical plugs in the wall, what do? We use extension cords, cheater cords. You guys know what that'll do. Or when a new laser hits the deck, if you're in a hospital situation and you don't consult with your engineers, they already know the electrical requirements because these are pretty powerful pieces of equipment. You just can't plug them into anything. Example is the excimer laser for cardiac procedures. My last job thought I could just roll it downstairs to cath lab. I had to get the Biomed in there. I said, no, you just can't do that. It was a 50 amp plug. It wasn't even dropped and it didn't have the electrical requirements, but I needed that biomedical engineer. You come equipped with that. And you know regulatory awareness from already working with FDA and hospital accreditation requirements. So deep understanding of the device, calibration, you can implement troubleshooting quicker in more cases than not than the nurse or the surgical tech. I mean, Patti and I have gotten a combination of 60 years, or about 35 to 40 years apiece, and we've learned trial by fire, no pun intended, on how to troubleshoot and working very close with our engineers to figure out what's wrong with the laser. But you already come equipped with that knowledge a lot of times on how to intervene and get that case up and running, because it's very discouraging to our patients and our physicians when we have to stop something as simple as an alignment issue that can be done very quickly in that knowledge with a biomedical engineer. You have first-hand insight into potential risk and mitigate anything that could happen and implement strategies for that change. And I talk about Bill, my biomedical engineer. I was at a hospital about 26 years, and one of the most difficult things was storing the
Vangie, it looks like you froze up on us there. I don't know if you're having issues with your Wi-Fi.
Hi, Vangie. Sometimes, Wi-Fi's, they freeze, but, the biomedical engineers are really good MLSOs, and hopefully Vangie will come back on, but what we'll do is we'll just go to the next slide, and I'll just kind of punch in here until Vangie can come back. Let's see. So, John, can you take over for Vangie, her slides, or?
And I'll give you control real quick.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Hopefully she'll just pop right here. So good. Here we go. Show my, I'm going to have to get into what's the slide that she's at. Just a second here. She is in, I think she's right here on slide, going to find her exact slide. And
It's good that we have biomeds on the call today because they're used to
yeah,
these technical issues and troubleshooting and
oh, I
doing stuff.
know.
So
Let's see, what slide was she in? Do you give me the number for that? Since I was in, I think she is here on. Well, we're just going to go in why she was discussing why biomedical engineers can be so fabulous. So we're just going to go here. We're going to start here, show my screen. And yeah, can everyone see my screen here?
yes, we can. Do you want to
Okay,
go to presenter mode?
Here I am. And I'm just going to put it in the presenter mode here so everyone can see it. And we are going to just move right along here for Vangie, and hopefully, you know, sometimes internet can go off on us, and that's always why it's nice to have two people here to be able to lecture. So here we go. So we're just going to be. Is Vangie back?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh,
we're good.
Okay, we're just going to be moving on here for a biomedical engineer, and I think she was discussing the advantages of being a biomedical engineer, acting as MLSO. And we're going to be going more and more into the medical laser safety obligations. And
Patti, real quick,
yes.
Can you minimize your control panel or move it off to the side?
Yeah, okay. That kind of gets into it, doesn't it? There we go.
There
Okay.
we go. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about, we're going to start, you know, getting into the deep dive of medical laser safety officers' obligations, and this is going to be discussed in depth in our 2-day class. So obviously, the laser safety officer provides the overall guidance and oversight and the development of this program within the facility. We're going to talk about proper eye and skin protection. That is so important, and all the different aspects of hazard control. We're going to be discussing what kind of policies and procedures need to be in place at your facility to really safeguard everyone that's in the room and even outside the room when lasers are being used. Controlled access and signage, that is also important, so you can designate your room as the laser safety treatment control area, and then documentation reporting. So over the next slides between her and I, we're going to go into depth of this. You know, the MLSO, the expectations and responsibilities, multi-factored. Obviously, besides taking your course, you're going to make sure that you not only develop the safety protocols that are necessary, because most of these lasers that you're working with are really high energy and can cause ocular and skin injury. So we want to make sure we have these safety protocols, obviously safety equipment evaluation, and that is where you as biomedical engineers can come into place. You're going to be involved, obviously, in oversight of them and inventory of them, and you may have the training and expertise to actually be involved in the PM and the repair of them. Training and education is going to be all throughout the whole you know, surgical area that you may be working in, or in a clinic that you're working in, because everyone that comes in and out of that room needs to
has its own name for that.
Oh, did you hear me, Vangie?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm glad you're back. I'm gonna just let you finish up here because, like, this is your lecture, and I just kind of booted in here to help you. So let me give you control here, okay? And
I don't know which slide you were on there, Patti.
oh,
We
I was
lost
on.
you for a little bit, Vangie.
Yeah, I was on the MLSO expectations and responsibilities, and that was on slide. Let's see. I'm just trying to help you out here, Vangie. We are on 17, slide 17. So I'm just going to give it over to you.
I have control still, don't
I think he gave it. Oh, yeah, you must have because.
I still have control. Can everybody
Okay.
see my slides? John, Patti, can you see these slides?
I just see the one that that Patti had up.
All
I
right,
gave
let's
to-
see. I must have drawn, it says stop sharing, but let me try to share it again. Share
Okay.
my webcam. Let's try it again. Do you see it now?
I see mine.
Let me send you control, Vangie.
Thank you
'Cause
so much. We can turn this over to Patti pretty quick. Yep. All right. Thank you. I see it. Thank you so much, John. All right. Back to that. Your expectations. We said that in incidents investigation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish up here because I want to give Patti ample time, but there is a multitude of groups that help you comply to your safety program standards and guidelines. And we have national recommendation standards for every type of laser service, even in research. And what you all need to do is to understand the risk management and legal systems that are part of our ANSI standards. And these are the 2024 standards. Safety program oversight, more than likely you have 3B and 4 lasers, but as an LSO, you have to know a little bit about everything, a little bit of country and a little bit of rock and roll for sure. And basically you're more rigid with your class 3B and 4 environmental controls that are needed in the room. That's where you get very granular in the bigger course for sure. So hazard evaluation, we're a little redundant here, but there are evaluations on each laser system and procedure. And we're going to assess whether it's the beam path, the exposure limits, and control measures. And those types of calculations and standards are going to help you put those control measures in place. And that's what that is, control measures. So going into more control measures, that's your signage, your eyewear, your control of your treatment areas, and you're going to learn about the different interlock systems and make sure that those systems are functioning properly. Okay. We talked about the written policies and procedures that you will be part of, and you have to have standard operating procedures for every laser manufacturer and type of laser within your facility. So policies and procedures will include all of this. And I think, John, you may tell them they have the availability of the slides that can help that, or we can put this in a written documentation, help you get jump started with this most definitely. Okay. And training, you as the LSO shall ensure proper laser safety training to all personnel that enter the laser treatment control area. Okay, and that just goes on. In fact, let me go back. Those are all the health physicists and radiation safety officers and biomedical engineers in that 3.5-day course. So you're seeing more and more responsibilities delegated to your biomedical engineer. Your audits, you have to do a minimum of once a year, but we're seeing that we need to up that a little bit to maintain compliance and laser safety. And there's that's what we have to look like a policeman when we audit. No, you're going to do it in conjunction with your nurse or your surgical tech or whom you deem that educated person in laser background. Okay. So compliance, OSHA, FDA, or the CDRH, CMS, and multiple authorities, accreditation units, you got Quad A, AAA, D&B, and Joint Commission. They all look at the standards and the guidelines and will implement practice change to cover what these standards and guidelines say in maintaining a proper laser safety program. So now that I don't know why I didn't jump off, total apologies for that. That was crazy. But now I'm going to turn it over to a dear friend of mine, and I'm going to change the presenter mode to Patti. Patti, you're on. Changing it now.
Okay,
Good deal.
here we
And while
go.
Patti's
Show my
using-
screen. Can you see that?
I
Can you see
can.
me?
Patti, I want to just let everybody know real quick too, sorry for interrupting, that there are 2 handouts available in the control panel, so our attendees can get that. And now I will be quiet and let you take it away, Patti. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. This is me, and this is Vangie, and we are so glad that, you know, we can tag team because it's great. You can see we just jump in and help each other, and I'm so thrilled to be here and to lecture with Vangie because she is just like such a mentor, a colleague, and a friend. That's all I can tell you. So with that, we're going to continue on. But you know what? Oh, another polling question. So John, this is a little reflection on Vangie's material here. Preoperative laser assessment check should include assessment of all laser equipment, ensuring that appropriate signage is in place, ensuring that all lasers have received maintenance, completing the laser safety checklist prior to arrival. John.
Yes, we have those answers coming in, and it looks like the poll just closed, and it was 83% for the first one, 83% for the second one, 100% for ensuring that the laser has received maintenance, and 83% for completing the laser safety checklist prior to arrival.
Well, there we go. Completing the laser safety checklist prior to arrival. Woohoo! We are ready to roll. Okay, thank you, John. Obviously, we have as Vangie said, a very well-educated audience here. So, hopefully you've gathered from Vangie that, the MLSO is really the quintessential element of your laser safety program, and they provide this overall oversight and guidance, and also can mitigate any possible hazards that exist out there. Now, one of the job descriptions that is listed in both the ANSI Z136.3, which really refers to the use of medical lasers, is an area that discusses incident investigation. And this is section 1.3 that goes into the laser safety officer, and then you go into section 6 in the ANSI document. It's going to talk about incident investigation and how you really are going to be able to have a post-exposure surveillance, and what sort of documentation you need if there is a laser-related incident or not. And so obviously, when you're looking at any sort of potential or actual injury that did occur, documentation is so important, and you're going to have to conduct an investigation. And that is going to be documented either in a variance report or a sentinel event, or in an incident report, whatever you have internally within your organization. And, with that, depending on the severity of it, if it's an actual malfunction of your piece of equipment, and I think you're aware of this, you would need to file with the FDA CDRH, because this is the Medical Safe Medical Device Act regulatory mandate that you have to actually put in documentation that you had a malfunction. But also, you might have to record and submit this to your actual medical board within your state. And that's what in California we would have to do if we have a very serious injury. But if an incident does occur, then this is when you're going to have your post-exposure surveillance. And this is when you're going to have the paperwork and documentation. And we are going to have that available for you where you go into depth in our course. But this is going to involve documentation, not only the individual, the incident and what happened, the extent of the injury, because you have to follow the ANSI guidelines if it refers to laser incidences. And on section 6, it does talk about potential or actual ocular injury. In this case, if this does occur, this individual will need to be seen within 48 hours of a medical practitioner. And so documentation on this form, what kind of exam would need to be done, all of that is going to be in your post-exposure surveillance. And then it will continue, because also in this section 6, it does talk about different wavelengths, and some you may not see until a period of time later. Others, though, in this retinal hazardous area, that's nanometers 400 out to 1400 nanometers, this is visible and near infrared lasers. You could actually have a laser that transmits to the back of the eye. This is called retinal damaging lasers. And these individuals need to be seen by an ophthalmologist within 24 hours. And the actual exam that's mandated, it's in the back of your ANSI and actually Appendix I. So all of this will go over, but it's so essential to know how to conduct incident recording and documentation, and also medical surveillance. And this slide here just kind of talks to the fact that years and years and years ago, everyone had an eye exam before they worked with lasers. Well, now, you can refer to the .3, which is the medical ANSI, and even back to the .1, which is a document that actually looks at standards of care for laser use across all aspects. But when you look at these standards, it really lets it up to the institution. It'll be up to you, your laser committee, your safety committee, or your risk committee, whatever you have within your organization, to decide if you're going to conduct these pre-employment exam. And as you can see here, medical surveillance should be limited to those clearly known to be at risk. And it all depends on what type of lasers and what their medical condition is. So with all that being said, in the .1, it also states that some of these pre-existing exams have proven not to be useful in any medical legal litigation. What's more important is post-incident examination. And we'll go more into depth during our class. So this is a slide here to see if you're awake. Documentation is so important for the medical laser safety officer because of the fact this is a regulatory actual mandate from CMS. And if your facility does have CMS approval and then accreditation by, let's say, Joint Commission or DMV or another accreditation organization, you need to keep an inventory of all these laser devices because they have been deemed critical or acute, okay? And these are all class 4 lasers that we're working with, maybe class 3B, but you need to have an inventory designating these lasers specifically, you know, and it'll, you know, you have to list manufacturer, information about the laser, where is it located, where is it purchased, you know, what type of maintenance has been done, when was it serviced last, data purchase, all of this has to be in your inventory. And this is actually mandated, and we'll obviously review this in our next class that we're going to be doing on January. It's a 2-day medical laser safety officer class. Now, biomedical support is so important, as Vangie said, because whoever services these lasers, which may be you, CMS does dictate, and this is reflected in Joint Commission and also reflected in the ANSI standards, it has to be someone trained. And also you need to have credentials. You need to have that piece of paper, the documentation that you've been through a training course. And this needs to be kept by the MLSO on site, on the hospital network, whatever, showing the documentation of training. And also these lasers need to be repaired, serviced, whatever, per manufacturer IFU. And obviously this is a huge documentation paper trail. Now, third-party laser use, this applies, as Vangie said, ANSI applies, and other you know, guidelines that are out there, let's say by AORN, Association of Perioperative Registered Nurses, they do discuss the fact that third-party use is important to actually include in your laser safety program, because these standards and guidelines affect not only lasers that have been bought, purchased, leased, or rented. And so whoever comes in with that laser system, they are assuming the role of the laser operator. And it's important as an LSO to have in-house laser operator credentialing criteria and skills lists. So whoever is coming in with that laser, they have to meet that criteria, because that laser company is not your laser safety program, and that laser company is not your MLSO. When they come into your hospital, your clinic, they now are under your rules, your regulations, and your protocols, and they have to meet your guidelines and credentialing skills list. And so the important part about this is that third-party rentals, they have to also provide any documentation that exists on maintenance and service, and who also maintains those, and you need to have the documentation of their training also. Also, you know, this information when they come in, hey, you know, that is also taken back a lot of times for billing, and that is patient private information. That is patient PHI. So whenever that is released to an outside person, then a special agreement contract needs to be signed, which is a BAA, a business associate agreement. And we'll talk about that more in our class. Also, everyone in the room has to be trained on this new laser system that's coming in, and that calls for documentation, obviously in education. We're also communication liaisons. We are the liaison between departments and laser manufacturers and any sort of regulation organization, any new standard, any new mandates from CMS or from you know, the FDA, any accreditation organization, new survey requirements, all of this needs to be communicated. If there's a recall, if there's a malfunction on the laser system, once again, we are the ultimate communicator. And this is an example of how we need to reach out and communicate with anesthesia. This is a picture from the Mayo Clinic. And it's so important when you're dealing with lasers used in the airway or any sort of shared airway procedures. This is a card they use at the Mayo Clinic, communicating with anesthesia that this is a shared airway procedure, only having laser resistant tubes, using low O2 levels, making sure that you have an endotracheal tube that is filled with fluid in the cuff, and what is the protocol to take if there's an endotracheal fire. And so Vangie and I were instrumental in, we were actually subject matter expert for ARN, coming up with the laser guidelines. And one of the things that we felt very important is having this timeout. And timeout is now part of the guidelines. If you look at the ARN guidelines for laser safety. And when this timeout is taken either at the very beginning, when your universal protocol, your timeout is taken in general, or is taken right before the start of the case to make sure you have ultimate controls in place and you are providing the most safe environment for that patient. We are the safety consultant. Obviously, if new equipment's being purchased or a new procedure or a new doctor comes in, we are there to provide consultation. We are there to provide the expertise. And if you become the MLSO, you are so qualified for this because you're very aware, obviously, of electronics. And you're also aware of all the other different equipment that goes into place when lasers are being utilized. We are also very responsible for any equipment that's being used and for oversight once again. So, Vangie did talk about the use of protective eyewear, but this also not only eyewear, PPE, barriers for the windows, smoke evacuators, and all the eyewear you need to make sure that they're labeled and they're stored in the condition of this. And this is also a mandate. OSHA has their CFR 1910 requiring that laser eyewear is given to every single person that comes around this hazardous laser light. And so because of that, you are now once again performing a regulatory function. So here's another polling question. Question blank, are the appropriate eye protection against accidental exposure to lasers? What is it? Number one, clear prescription glasses with side shield. Number two, glasses marked with an OD and a wavelength. Or number three, if it's labeled laser approved on your eyewear. Please answer A, B, or C.
All right, we have people answering right now, and the results are in. And I'm going to answer with an answer instead of a question, even though I hear the jet room music. But 75% said glasses marked with the OD and the wavelength, and 25% said if label says, quote, laser approved, end quote.
We have a whole lecture I'll talk about in taking our course about laser safety, and this is a mandate, not only from OSHA, but it's listed in the ANSI document and also other guidelines that are out there. And so we're going to be discussing why it's so important that when you're in this treatment room, in the area of danger, in the nominal hazard zone, that your eyewear has the wavelength and optical density. So bottom line, this is a required position. And if you look, we'll be discussing all the different regulatory organizations and all the standards and all the guidelines. We're going to go into depth because regardless whether you lease or own or rent or borrow, whatever, your laser is under these mandates. And Vangie did talk about the fact that, an LSO, you obviously you're a biomedical engineer, you have one hat. If you choose to become, or if you are already the medical laser safety officer, this is full-time dedicated, right? But you can also delegate. And that's what we're going to talk about, how to set up your laser team, right? And in spite of what other people may mention, you are so qualified to be in this position. And it's even stated in the ANSI document itself. And so the bottom line, no matter where you are, whether you're in surgery with 300 lasers, or whether you're in a derm clinic or an ophthalmology clinic or a dental office, even a veterinarian clinic, regardless of your personal experience with working with lasers, you can collaborate, you can learn, you can read the user guide, you can talk with industry, and you can also collaborate with other people within your institution or hospital system. And so do remember that all these accreditation organizations, as they come in and survey, and at our clinic, we're an ASC, and we have had, besides being a consultant, also been a manager. We have had all these organizations coming in, and each of them demand different SOPs, and it is required always to have this LSO in place. So why become certified? It's so important to become certified because of the fact that you are now gaining ownership, right? You are now the person that is the expertise. You have the ultimate, right? The ultimate ability to show ownership. And this is so important. So anyway, with that, we're going to have Linda show us a video, and she is going to be able to go there and show us why it's so important to be to take a course and to be MLSO and have the excellence.
Congratulations on completing your laser safety officer training. You're one step closer to becoming a BLS, CLSO, or a CMLSO. Certification as an LSO shows your expertise, boosts your credibility, and can advance your career. It's recognized by employers and safety professionals worldwide. To be eligible, you need an approved LSO training course, like this one. 1 year of experience performing the responsibilities of an LSO, a degree or equivalent professional background, and 2 professional references. Applying takes just a few minutes online. Visit lasersafety.org, submit your application fee, then email your application, training certificate, and references to bls@lasersafety.org. We typically follow up within a few days. Becoming a BLS CLSO or CMLSO is simpler than you think, and it's worth it. Visit lasersafety.org to apply and take the next step in your laser safety career today.
All right, that was a great video.
And so now
And
we're
now
going
the-
back to why is it so important? Let me go back here for a minute. To be, I think, you've seen the CMLSO and why it's so important. And do you see my slides? Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, perfect. And so the bottom line, it is so essential that you become involved in a BLSO approved course. And because the Board of Laser Safety will not accept other types of courses by other credentialing in theory companies. And so we offer, as Vangie said, we have gone through the stringent guidelines as far as applying for this BLSO accreditation on our course. And as you see here, your background, you have that clinical, you have that technical, and you have the engineering background. So it makes perfect that you can become a BLSO and you become an MLSO certified. And so with that, let me just do the next slide. This is our QR code for our class that's coming up in January. We'd love to see you there. What does our course offer? Contact hours, which can be used if you are and belong in any other professional organization. We provide the templates, we provide the checklist, we provide the policies, procedures, the ocular incident report, medical surveillance, timeout documentation, the laser checklist that you may not have at your institution. Also, the other thing is that we dive deep, and Vangie and I are involved in other courses, but we took all last summer to really develop this course. So regardless of who is coming in, your accreditation organization, we will have the standards and making sure that you meet their demands during the survey. And also, we are going to be able to tell you and show you how to conduct a risk assessment and a hazard analysis. And so this is kind of an overview of what we do. Saturday, we start, we go into the physics, we break up, ANSI language and the laser language. It's like a foreign language. We're going to teach you that. We're also going to talk about all the different types of lasers. It's amazing between the medical, aesthetic, surgical, dental, vet hospital, what is happening. Also, we're going to go into the safe use of these lasers and some of the topics that we just touched on this morning during this webinar, as far as audits and documentation, the state of art. And then we're going to be going into compliance, compliance, compliance. Because I'll tell you, these accreditation organizations, they go right by the book with ANSI and they go right by the book with the ARN guidelines. And so it's important that you know those when you move forward in your career, and especially if you become the MLSO or if you become certified. And then we're going to talk about how do you build your laser safety program and what do you do as far as hazard analysis? How do you audit? What is the requirements for medical surveillance? And I talk about ocular hazards, that OD and wavelength, that is so important. And then we're going to go into depth of all the different delivery systems and accessories. And then finally, Vangie ends up with this fabulous plume and smoke evacuation lecture. She's been so instrumental in so many states and so many of our hospitals getting a Go Clear award. And she will tell you how to bring it to your hospital if it hasn't already happened. And then anesthesia, she'll go into depth on that, talking about how to protect the patient, whether it's an open system, closed system, what type of safety controls you need. Then we have vendors that you'll hear about their products. We're going to intermix them in between our 2 days. And then at the very end, we're going to bring you real life ethical dilemmas. What's the best way to really approach this situation so you safeguard that patient and the staff, and while being compliant to your overall laser safety program. So here we have, save the date, January 24th, January 25th. Please come and see us. And if you want to sign up, this is our website, medicallasersafety.com. And you can just get on the actual page for registration, $6.95, early bird fee. And once again, this course is approved by the Board of Laser Safety. And Vangie and I sit on that board, and we're very proud to do that. Yeah.
Fantastic presentation, ladies. That was wonderful. One question I want to get to real quick is someone asked if you can share the QR code. I love
sure.
the cats telling everyone that they're cool, because they are, for watching this webinar. But if you want to go back on your slide to the QR code and leave that up for anyone who is looking to scan that. Thank you. That'll be very helpful. I know, yes, that'll be very helpful to our attendees. Another question that we had come in is, what type of laser course is applicable to training?
To what?
I can to training. You have various levels of training for lasers. This is an administrative, is the medical laser safety officer, and a deputy would go to that too, to be honest with you. Then we're not going to put somebody that may be specialized in urology or a couple of other services. Those are either the laser safety site contact, which is basically a resource person, or the laser safety specialist. And then part of your orientation module is anybody that has the potential to walk in that room, whether it be your environmental people cleaning the room up in between cases, as well as working with your medical staff coordinator to provide safety for your physicians utilizing that laser. Patti, you have any more to add to that?
No, but if you once again go back to your standards, your ANSI standards and the ARN guidelines, it gives you a list of really everyone who needs that laser education and training, and there's sections dedicated to that. So that will be your guideline. But obviously, as Vangie said, it's kind of a hierarchy of or a pyramid of the laser user and LSO. Any sort of people in the LS team are going to have the most education, and then it moves on down once again to the ancillary people that like housekeeping that may be coming in and out, cleaning up before or after, and they need to really know, can they go into a room during laser procedure or not?
Good answer. And then if you can talk a little bit about the course coming up in January. I know that's a live virtual presentation. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Angie, want to start?
Yeah, I can. We put a lot of effort. We wanted to make this course so unique. And in short, Patty and I took something that in our normal medical laser safety officer courses that does not get granular enough. And we both come from a wide variety of backgrounds. So that course's agenda is probably unlike any that you will see, where we do a whole section, as Patty said, on optical hazards and talking about those. In our normal courses, we don't have anything about surgical plume or smoke, depending on what you call it. But basically, if you look at the criteria on that agenda, we meet the Board of Commission's criteria and then some. So we take it to the next level, also providing you with a lot of handouts to help your program get jump started.
Fantastic. We're coming up on 2 o'clock, so I'm going to close us out real quick. Any questions we didn't get to, we'll email to you so that y'all can answer them and send those back to the attendees with those questions. Thank you so much for that presentation. I learned a lot. I know the biomeds probably didn't learn as much as I did because they do this stuff every day, but there was a lot of positive takeaway from that. And I appreciate you both very much for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in
Now, the winner
January.
Happy Hanukkah to everybody. Enjoy your holiday.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
The winner of today's multi-tool for correctly answering the trivia question is Scott Williams in Wisconsin. The correct answer is Coca-Cola. They use Santa in their marketing advertising campaign and have for many years. Now, a quick reminder that you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey. The survey will be emailed in 1 hour. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you will be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us through email at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Also, I want to let everyone know if you work on imaging equipment or if you're interested in learning more about imaging equipment, our imaging conference is coming up in San Antonio, and you can find all the details about that conference at attendice.com. Thank you so much for your attention today. Thank you, ladies, for a great presentation, and everyone have a great day.
Bye-bye.